Did they sleep for 309 years or 5 hours? Can it be scientifically explained that when they woke up they thought they had slept for a few hours? Why 309 years and not 300 years or 310 years? Could it be possible to extend human life by hundreds of years with the treatment methods to be discussed? Arkanıza yaslanın. Başlıyoruz. Ashab-ı Kehf, also known as the Seven Sleepers, a group of believing young people mentioned in many sources, especially the Holy Quran, who slept in the cave they took shelter in for 309 years. In this video, we are not going to tell you the well-known story of Ashab-i Kehf. You can be sure that you will come across information that you have not come across anywhere until now. You will witness some discoveries that are not yet included in the modern scientific literature. In our previous videos, we have explained the basic elements of sleep science. In this section, we will try to explain a reality mentioned in the Quran, its relationship with sleep science, and the statements of the Quran within the framework of sleep science. In the Quran, it is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf that the people of Al-Kahf slept in a cave for a long period of 309 years. The verse begins as follows. They said, "O our Lord, give us mercy from your presence, make our affairs easy for us, and guide us to maturity." In the following verses, the following statement is made, "We put a barrier in their ears." The arrival of the help they sought through sleep is described with the phrase, "and we put a weight on their ears." That is, just before they fell asleep, an obstacle was placed in their ears. But what could this obstacle be that came with a blow? The blow to their ears can be understood as a high frequency. Uykuya dalış sürecinin kulaklara bağlı olduğunu önceki videolarda delilleriyle anlatmıştık. Kur'an'ın bu inceliği ima etmesi ve 1400 sene önce bu bilimsel gerçeği haber vermesi gerçekten de hayret verici değil mi? O halde kulaklara vurulan bu engel tam olarak nedir? Çünkü onların kulakları açıktı. Yani sesin kulağa ulaşması için görünürde bir
So what
engel yoktu.
exactly is this obstacle to
Bunu
the
şu şekilde
ears?
açıklayabiliriz.
Because their ears were
İnsan
open, so there was no
kulağındaki
visible
salyangoza
obstacle
bağlı
for the
olduğu
sound to
sinir
reach the
sisteminde
ear.
bu iletimi
We can
sağlayan
explain it
temel bir
this way.
fonksiyon var.
In the nervous system to which the snail in the human ear is
Elektronların
connected,
hızı sayesinde
there
bir
is a
şeyle
fundamental
vurduğumuz
function
anda
that
bu
enables
temas
this
beynimize
transmission.
iletilir.
Electrons.
Geçmişteki
Thanks to the
deneyimleri
speed of
sayesinde
electrons, as soon as we
kendisinde var
touch
olan
something,
bilgiyle
this
temas
contact is
edilen
transmitted
bölgedeki
to our
sıcaklık ya
brain.
da soğukluğu
The brain
algılar.
perceives the
Ve bu
temperature
süre
or
bir
coldness
salise
in
kadar
the
bir
contacted
değil,
area with the knowledge it
neredeyse
has
o
thanks
andır.
to its past
Çünkü
experiences.
elektronlar
And this
iletimin
time is
ışık
not
hızında
even a split
gerçekleşiyor.
second, it is almost
Yine önceki
instantaneous
içeriklerde
because
bahsettiğimiz
electrons
üzere
transmit
insan
at the speed of
vücudundaki
light.
bütün bilgi birikimi
Again,
paketler
as we have
halinde
mentioned
beyinde
in
arşivlenir.
previous content,
Ve bu
all
arşivleme
the
aynı
knowledge in
zamanda
the human
insanın
body is
geçirdiği
archived
vakti
in the
insana
brain in
tekrar
packets,
öğretir.
and this
Bir gün daha
archiving
geçti,
also
bir
reteaches
gün
the
daha
time
geçti
spent by the
diye
human
beynimize
being.
yaşlandığımızı
It
öğreten
is
bu
this
arşivleme
archiving
sistemi.
system that teaches our
Öyleyse
brain
309
that we are
yıl
aging.
boyunca uyuyan
Another
bir
day
kişinin
has passed,
böylesine
another
uzun
day
bir
has
süre
passed.
uyku halinde
So what is it
kalabilmesi
that
ve
enables a person who
uyandığında
has slept for
Kur'an'daki ifade
309 years
sanırım
to
bir gün
remain
veya
asleep
birkaç
for
saat
such a
uyudum
long period of time?
diyebilmesini sağlayan
And
şey
when he
ne
wakes up, he
olabilir?
can say, in the words of the
Günümüzde
Quran,
bilim
I
adamları
think I slept
insan
for a day
bedenini dondurmak
or a
suretiyle
few
bazal
hours.
metabolizma fonksiyonlarını
Today we know
minimal
that
düzeye
scientists are
indirgeyerek
working on freezing
deneklerin
the
yıllar
human
sonra
body to minimize
uyandırılabilmesi
basal
üzerine
metabolic
çalışmalar
functions
yaptıklarını
so that
biliyoruz.
subjects can be
Ancak bir
awakened years
mağaranın
later.
binlerce yıl önce böyle bir
But a cave
laboratuvar
would not have
düzenine
had
sahip
such a
olmayacağı
laboratory set up
açık.
thousands of
Ayrıca
years ago.
309 yıl
In
boyunca
addition,
tekrarlayan
it
mevsim
seems
devrimi
difficult for the
sebebiyle
temperature to
sıcaklığın
remain
sabit
constant
kalması zor
due
gibi
to the
görünüyor.
recurring seasonal
Son
cycles
dönemlerde
for
biyoloji alanında yapılan
309
çalışmalar
years.
hücrenin
Recent
yavaşlatılabileceğini
studies in
gösterdi.
biology
Bu
have
ise
shown
hücredeki
that the
hormon
cell can be
aktivasyonunun
slowed
minimalize
down.
edilmesiyle gerçekleşiyor. Böylelikle partikül üretimi de yavaşlatılmış oluyor. Peki tüm bu olayların ötesinde gizlenen başka bir sır olabilir mi? The secret lies in the slowing down of electrons by a new radioactive reverse function produced by the oscillation of the ear snail itself. However, there is no mechanism by which our brains can do this, nor is it possible through external intervention. However, thanks to this function of the snail, the slowing down of electrons leads to a decrease in brain communication and a change in the perception of time. Under normal conditions, when the speed of the electron is weakened 500,000 times, a 1-minute period of time can be perceived as a year. In the case of Ashab-i Kahf, the scientific process applied by Allah is the production of this inverse function that reduces the speed of the electrons on the snail. In the future, electron control mechanisms will be developed, and this will lead to an increase in the average human lifespan. For example, let's say a person goes to the doctor and his pancreas is examined. As a result of the examination, the doctor will be able to say, "Your pancreas is aging." In this period, cures for many diseases, including cancer, will have been discovered. But more dangerous diseases than cancer will start. The body may be 25 years old, but the pancreas is 85 years old. The doctor will say, "Your pancreas has reached 85 years of age. Its life is almost over." The patient will ask, "Can you slow down my pancreas?" The doctor's answer,
elektronları yavaşlatırsanız 10 yıl geçer ancak pankreas için yalnızca 10 dakika geçmiş gibi olur. Ashab-ı Kehf'in kulağında oluşan ters fonksiyon
because of the reverse function in the ear of Ashab-i Kahf, the verse says, "Fi kehfi sinina adeda," meaning they stayed in the cave for many numbered years. Allah uses the expression numbered years because this frequency has a math. When they woke up, they said, "We slept for a day or a few hours." But when they went to the city, they found out that they had slept for about 300 years. The verse continues, "Summa biaznahum," meaning, then we raised them up. The description of sleep as half-death in verse 42 of Surah Zumar supports the phrase, "We raised them up." The verse continues, "So that we may know which of them has better calculated the period of their waiting." In other words, let them know if the period of time they lived in was the same as that of the people in the city. We understand from this narrative that they go down to the city and tell how long they stayed in the cave. And the people in the city say how much time has passed. When they come down, they say, "Wulai, we slept for a few hours." The expression "a few hours" here means about 5 hours. We will come to that in a moment. When the people in the city say that 300 years have passed, Allah says to Prophet Muhammad in the rest of the verse, "We tell you their news as the truth." Another noteworthy passage is the phrase, "We gave steadfastness to their hearts, and then they arose." This verse refers to the cessation of the function endowed to the ear and the slowing down of the electrons through this function, and thus the awakening. This persistence given to the heart is the electroshock phase that will activate the ear function. As we explained in the sleep science,
kalbi tekrar çalıştıran vücuda verilen elektroşok değildir. Elektroşok salyangozu harekete geçirir ve böylelikle beyinden kalbe atış emri gider. Allah'ın
when Allah said, "We have given steadfastness to their hearts," what did they do? They woke up. So electroshock was written in the Quran 1400 years ago. They said, "Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. We do not worship any God other than Him. If we did so, we would certainly be speaking nonsense." These statements are meant to show that they had a sane sleep. That is, they did not sleep so long that they had a mental breakdown, because it is important not to exceed the amount of time one should sleep in a day to avoid this breakdown. We've all experienced in our daily lives that the mind doesn't function properly when the usual amount of sleep time is exceeded. Imagine that this period is 309 years. For this reason, the sleep of Ashab-i Kahf must have taken place at the appropriate time. Speaking of healthy sleep, it is worth mentioning the times of the day known as bad times. The Prophet Muhammad's statements that one should not sleep during the rising and setting of the sun and the mental dysfunction that would occur if one did so are important. Modern science suggests that this effect is related to the angle of incidence of the sun's rays on the earth. Let us see if there are clues to the fact that the 7 sleepers were not affected by bad times in verse 17 of Surah Qaf. The meaning of the relevant part of the verse is as follows. You used to see that when the sun rose, it went around the cave from the right side, and when it set, it cut through it from the left side, so that it did not disturb them until it rose and set over them. Their protection in this way is one of the proofs of Allah's might. So exactly how many hours should the sleep period be that Ashab Kahf described as a few hours? We have just explained that if the electrons were slowed down 500,000 times, 1 minute would be perceived as 1 year. These are not random numbers. In other words, the 500,000-fold slowing down of the electrons in the body of the Ashab al-Kahf made 309 years correspond to 5 hours and 9 minutes. Even though 309 years have passed, their bodies perceived it as 5 hours and 9 minutes. Another point that we think is important is that Allah has declared this period as 309 years. Could the Palan 9 years equal to 9 minutes be the equivalent of REM sleep in the human body? In the human body, the first 3 minutes of sleep is the diving phase, during which memories are archived. The first 2 hours after that is the first deep sleep. At the end of these 2 hours, there is a middle wakefulness. Everyone wakes up 2 hours after sleeping, whether they want to or not, whether they realize it or not. Sometimes they jump awake.
Bazen sıçrayarak uyanır, bazen gözü hafifçe açılıp kapanır. Bu sırada beyin dünü toparlamış, bugünü planlamıştır. Bundan sonraki 3 saatlik dilim ise ikinci derin uyku evresidir. 5. saatin sonunda ise gelecek kurgusuyla uyanma süreci başlar ki bu da yaklaşık 9 dakikalık bir süreçtir.
The main benefit of this information is that if you want to sleep well, you should not sleep more than 5 hours. As soon as you pass the 5th hour, the body prepares a report saying, "We have finished our work, we have checked yesterday, we have collected all the data for today, we have collected the planning data for tomorrow, we have checked the organs, we have determined what to do against diseases. Everything is ready for us. Let's wake up, shall we?" If the person continues to sleep despite this report, the brain will start to harm the body. The brain ironically says, "I guess we will be Ashab Kahf." It seems that sleep will continue. We don't know how long it will continue. Then, with the change in the mathematics of hormonal pressure, the decomposition phase begins. What we eat starts to be converted into fat, because the body also expends energy during sleep. When you go over 5 hours, the body develops such a defense mechanism because it cannot predict how long the sleep period will last and stores energy for a longer sleep. This is one of the most common misconceptions. It is not sleeping immediately after eating that causes weight gain, but sleeping for more than 5 hours. Apart from the fat conversion reflex, the mucous membrane in the intestine thickens as there is no oral nutrition during sleep. This is one of the main causes of constipation problems. There is also a slowing down of the heart. So a slowing down of the heart over 5 hours can cause heart spasms and infarctions, even in young people, which is becoming more common today. As a result of all this, you might think that our brain is giving us a message like this: if you are going to sleep more than 5 hours, at least make the end of the 5th hour coincide with the morning prayer. So you can pray, your body can wake up a little bit and recover. If you are going to go back to sleep afterwards, you will prevent a lot of harm from oversleeping. People slept little before the Second World War. The Nazis did a lot of research on prisoners, especially Jews, during the war. Some of them were kept awake for 40 hours, others were forced to sleep for 12 hours, and many measurements were made. As a result of these studies, they found that when people slept for 8 hours, their memory loss increased, their productivity decreased, and their consumption habits increased. In this way, it was realized that people became more easily controllable. After this situation was revealed, the phrase "sleep 8 hours a day to be healthy" was added to the world's health.
Cinselliğine kadar neredeyse tüm biyolojik sisteminde çöküntüler yaşamış. İnsanoğlu 8 saat uyku üzerine yaratılmamıştır. Optimal uyku süresi 5 saattir. Eğer öğle vaktinde kısa bir şekerleme yapabilirseniz, gece uykunuzu 4 saate de düşürebilirsiniz.
If you can take a short nap at lunchtime, you can reduce your night's sleep to 4 hours. However, if your circumstances do not allow you to sleep during the day, you should at least keep your night's sleep to no more than 5 hours. If you are wondering, how do we get into this habit? Here is what you need to do. You need to solve your problems before you lay your head on the pillow. In other words, whatever you have done before you go to bed, you should have closed the account of that day. You should also not be in bed to plan for the next day. You can set such a time for yourself 10 minutes before you go to bed. If you are obsessing about something, don't go to bed. Even if you are sleepy, don't go to sleep. Don't use sleep as an escape. If sleep becomes an escape opportunity instead of a need of your body, your sleep time will be longer. As a result, when you go to bed, you should have drawn a curtain over your mind. You should fall asleep by breathing as deeply as possible at least 3 times. You should set your alarm for 5 hours later and wake up. Although it may be challenging at the beginning, if you can maintain this practice for 40 days, your biological clock will be adjusted and you will go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. But your bedtime is also important for this. Not everyone has to go to bed at 11 o'clock. There were times when the Prophet went to bed at 2 or 3 o'clock at night. There were even times when he went on to the next day without sleeping at all, but we see that he almost never abandoned his midday nap. Because midday sleep is a complete recovery. 1 hour of sleep at noon is equivalent to 2.5 hours of the night, 3 hours if you sleep in the right place. As a result, whether you sleep at noon or not, if you can fix your total daily sleep time at 5 hours and maintain this for 40 days, you will notice that many of your diseases slowly start to heal and your body functions return to normal. As these functions improve, you will realize that blood pressure disorders, blood sugar irregularities, and many other ailments are actually caused by oversleeping. Nowadays, you can hear a lot of advice from scientists about the ergonomics of mattresses and pillows. But there is no such technology. This is a big misconception. The truth is that sleeping on a wool mattress and on a hard surface has its benefits. But this is good for your body. It has nothing to do with the quality of sleep. What is directly related to sleep quality is the way
Kalitesiyle doğrudan ilgili olan konu düşünce biçimidir. Eğer bir insanın kaygı bozuklukları varsa uyku düzeni bozulur. Durumlar karşısında kaygılandığımız unsurların şeklini, algı sistemimizi, hayata bakış açımızı, kabulleniş biçimimizi değiştirmedikçe
drugs used to sleep can lead to cancer. Because all the hormones secreted by these drugs provide unnecessary airflow, which is accumulated in the lungs. This comes back to us either as laryngeal cancer or lung cancer. This is an indisputable fact. Therefore, medication should not be taken in order to sleep. Scientific studies have shown that for a healthy and productive sleep, a person should first and foremost sleep on their right side. The Prophet used to put his right hand under his cheek. Until today, the scientific world or religious scholars have never mentioned the reason for this. But everything related to sleep is also related to the ear, especially when pressure is applied to the right outer ear. All the effects that occur in the secretory system of the snail are therapeutic and make a person wake up refreshed. When the Holy Prophet used to lie on his right side to sleep, he usually put his middle finger on the cartilage of the outer ear. This is a deliberate gesture and helps to wake up refreshed in the morning and regulates many functions in the body. In a
Özetle
nutshell,
sağ kulağımız
our
vücudumuzun
right ear is
işlevlerini
related to the
geliştirir.
functions of
Sol
our
taraf
body.
ise daha çok
The
manevi
left
ve
side
ruhani
is more
boyutlarla
related to
ilgilidir.
the spiritual and
İlk yatış ve
ethereal
derin uykuya
dimensions.
geçiş sonrası
After the
eğer
initial
sağlıklı
lying
şekilde
down and the
uyuyabiliyorsanız
transition to deep
yaklaşık
sleep,
6-7 dakika
if you
sonra
are able to
fonksiyonel
sleep
ortadan
soundly
kalkar
after
ve
about
bu durumda
6 to
akupunktur
7 minutes,
noktalarının
the
etkili
functions
unsurları
disappear
%30
and the
seviyelerine
effective
düşer.
elements of the
Sol
acupuncture
kulağımız uyku
points drop to
problemlerimizin temel
30%.
unsurlarını anlamamız
The
için
left
bize bir
ear gives
fırsat
us an
sunar.
opportunity to
Son
understand the
olarak
basic
kulak
elements
insan
of our
vücudu
sleep
için bir
problems.
ihtiyaçtır. Kulağın
Finally,
girebilecek yabancı
earwax
elementleri
is a
engellemesi
necessity
onun
for the human
faydalarından
body.
yalnızca biri.
One of
Size
its benefits
verebileceğimiz
is that it
tavsiyelerden
prevents
biri de
foreign
bu
elements
kiri
from
kulak
entering the
çubukleriyle
ear.
temizlememek
One
üzerine.
piece of advice we can
Bu
give you
uygulama
is
da
not to
uyku
remove
bozukluğuna
this
neden
wax with
olur.
ear
Mümkün
sticks.
olduğunca kalın
This
bir
practice
şekilde sarılmış
also
bir
causes
peçeteyle
sleep
sert
disturbance.
olmayan dokunuşlarla
It would be better to
temizlemek
clean
daha
it with a
doğrudur.
napkin,
Ve
wrapped as
kulağınızı
thickly as
tamamen
possible with
temizlemeye
non-harsh
çalışmayın.
touches.
Bu da başta
And
uyku
do not
bozukluğu
try to
olmak
clean
üzere
your ear
birçok
completely.
problemi ve hastalığı
This
getirir.
triggers many problems and diseases,
Sonuç olarak
especially sleep
Kur'an-ı
disturbance.
Kerim'deki hiçbir
In
ayet,
conclusion,
hatta
not a
hiçbir
single
hadis,
verse or even a
rastgele
single
ya da
letter in the
laf
Quran
arasına
was
yedirip
revealed
verilmiştir.
randomly
Bu
or
da
just for the
mucize
sake of
olmasının
it.
göstergelerinden
One of the
biridir.
indicators
Her
of
bir
its
harfin
miracle is the
içerisinde
existence of
saklanmış
dozens
onlarca
of
bir
branches of
sırrının
science
varlığıdır.
hidden in each
Bu da
letter.
din ve bilimin
The fact that
birbirinden
today
bağımsız
religion
sahalar
and
olarak
science are
ifade edilmesi ve
expressed and
algılanması,
perceived as
belki de
independent
modern
fields
bilimin
is
zannettiği
perhaps due
kadar
to the fact
gelişmiş
that modern
olmamasından
science
kaynaklanır.
is not as advanced as it
Zira
is
her
thought to
tarih
be.
diliminin
This
kendisine
is
ait
because
bilimi
the
o
science
dönem
of
için
each
gelişmiş
historical
olarak ifade
period is
edilir.
considered to be advanced
Amerika'da
for
bulunan
that
araştırma
period.
merkezimizde
You will
elde
be
edilen
able to
veriler
find the
ışığında özel
details
olarak
of this
verdiğimiz bu
information,
bilgilerin detayları
which we have
YouTube
summarized in the
programı
light
gibi
of the
konular
data
hakkında
obtained in
seri
our
halinde
research center in
yayınlanacak
America,
kitaplarımızda
in our books
bulabileceksiniz.
that will be published in
Kur'an-ı Kerim
series
ve Peygamber
on this
Efendimizin
and
hayatı
similar
ışığında
subjects.
bilimsel
We hope to see you
açıklamalarımız,
again in our
keşiflerimiz
other
ve
videos
hala
with our
bilinmeyen
scientific
birçok bilginin yer
explanations,
aldığı diğer
discoveries,
videolarımızda
and many
tekrar
still
görüşmek
unknown
dileğiyle.
information in the light of the Holy
Sağlıcakla kalın.
Quran and the life of our Prophet. Stay in good health.